Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 56 of the Hunger for the Hustle podcast. And good morning. It's a bright, sunny morning here in Melbourne. I am joined by my guest, Stephen, today, who calls himself the Speaker Genius. Great subtitle. Stephen is joining me from Playa del Carmen, Mexico. What time is it there, Stephen? Tell me.
It is just after 4:30 for you fellows from the UK, etc. But 4:40 to be exact.
Well, PM, right?
PM, 16:40, yes.
Got it. For a second there, I thought you were a very, very early riser. I know you told me you were an early riser off camera, and quite frankly, I believe to win in life, it serves you well to get up early in the morning.
I do get up at 4:30 every morning, so that wouldn't be far.
There you go. I was only 15 minutes out in that respect.
How about you? Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm going to introduce you first and just give the audience a little bit of background on who you are so they know exactly who I'm speaking with today. Stephen has consulted, advised, and led workshops for more than 250 companies in 16 different countries, specializing in helping his clients generate millions of dollars in revenue. Stephen is aware that there's a lot more value than the financial side to the work he does, but he also brings a positive impact to every aspect of his clients' lives. A speaker, a self-confessed revenue nerd, and a specialist in helping businesses not leave money on the table. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you, Stephen, to the show. Just welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you aboard. And as I said off camera, your fantastic signature hairdo. I could not mention it. Sorry, I had to go there.
Jake, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to meet you as well. And I'm looking forward to diving in and talking with you today.
Yeah, man, and let's dive into it. You know, the purpose of this show is to pull back that curtain on entrepreneurship. It's often dressed up as something that's glamorous and a real hot thing to get into right now. You may know as well as I do that when you're deep into it, knee deep into it, neck deep into it, it's not always that glamorous and fancy. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of blood, a lot of sweat, and sometimes even tears. So yeah, let's pull back that curtain today for the audience. And in that, you know, you call yourself the Speaker Genius. You help businesses to increase their profit, but there's a lot more to that, you know, than just the monetary value. Please tell us, Stephen, you know, a bit of what you do and how you came to do it.
Okay, so I do two things. My main business is sales consulting. So that's where I've helped the clients generate the millions in revenue per the situation in the bio. That's where I've done workshops and stuff like this. And I've been fortunate in my sales life to get the chance to get on stages and do some keynotes. Sometimes with people I feel I have no business sharing the stage, whether online or offline with. Some examples would be the chairman and CEO of JetBlue, the chairman and CEO of 1-800-Flowers, multiple best-selling authors, and then me. It's amazing to be able to do stuff like that. And I think seeing people gravitate towards my speaking and the subjects that I talk about and starting to ask me, hey, how can I get on stage? What is it that I can do to speak like you and be out in front of crowds? And the more I got asked this question, I started to see that this was a need in the market. That's number one. So people are asking me about it. Number two, I noticed that whenever I talk, I get way more leads that are warm, that are interested and want to learn more about everything that I have in some way that they can work with me. So when I combined those two things, I decided to somehow productize it, and that's how Speaker Genius came about. And the goal of Speaker Genius is to help 1,000 entrepreneurs build profitable speaking careers. And that can be in whatever way you want, but there's 3 ways that I find that people can generate money through speaking, and I help people build out strategies to get them. So I'll list those for anyone who's listening. Number 1 is your front end. So front end means you get paid to show up. It's like having a job. Hey, here's your speaker fee. Come in and talk to us about your story, Jake. The second way, back end. And this is where you hear people making 7-8 figures in speaking. You're like, how do you do that? What's your speaking fee? They actually make a lot of their money on the back end. They have books, they have merchandise, they have consulting and coaching programs. And that is something you can sell really well when you have a good presentation that leads people through and creates a good call to action. And then the third way to book high fees for speaking is to get sponsors. So if you have a good audience, you have a good topic, and you can bridge those, you could probably get a company to pay for the pleasure of putting their name on a bill with your name as well.
Wonderful. I really didn't. I knew about the first two as someone who's entered the arena of speaking and is working to get more speaking engagements. I'm really in the infancy of it, and it's only been in the virtual space so far, but I've really been enjoying it. But I never knew really. I didn't really consider the third option about sponsorship. But of course, it makes sense. You know, particularly if you're speaking on a subject or a subject matter that aligns with a certain brand or business's ethos, then yeah, it just naturally makes sense.
It does, man. It's the best lead generator I've seen. And I want to just make one other point on that. Everybody is online right now doing something one way or another. And everybody's posting the same types of things. Everybody's asking for someone to come and book a call with them. But the thing we've lost, or maybe the thing we've gained actually through this situation with COVID, et cetera, is people want something authentic. And so like, I'll even say how we met. You watched a couple of my videos and were like, hey, like, maybe you'd be a good person for my podcast. Let's get on. And I wasn't putting on airs. I wasn't selling anything. I'm just sharing some of the stuff that I've worked on. And I think that is, right, that is the opportunity that I don't think people understand how valuable it can be. I'll share some quick numbers with you. I've been putting videos out for the last 49 days straight. Every day there's a new video that comes out. And I've already been asked to be on 15 podcasts. That's all inbound. So that means what's really exciting about that is, one, I get to meet amazing people who do incredible things like you, who are plumbing and doing your e-commerce company from all over the world. And now we get to combine forces with our audiences. So their name gets spoken in my circles, my name gets spoken in their circles. And it's that easy, right? So that's just a hugely valuable thing that enables any person, no matter what you do, whether you're a plumber or you're a farmer or you fix computers, you can differentiate yourself in such a unique way when you're speaking, because people can see who you are. And there's two things. You get booked for who you are, but you get paid for what you teach. So when I know who you are, I want to do something with you. And then when you do something that's really valuable, I can't wait to pay you for it. Yeah,
I think it's a great way to address it and a great way to think about it. And something that you mentioned a little bit before that, I'd love to wind back to, particularly right now. You know, people want stuff that's authentic. And I think with regard, and I've seen you doing it, you know, you said you've put out a video for every day for the past 49 days, which is a huge feat. And I'm sure you've had a lot of fun doing that. But you're documenting there as well as, you know, I've seen some of the videos you present in, you talk about particular subjects and you really dive deep into them and you talk about them from different perspectives and angles, which I think is fantastic as well, to be able to talk about one idea, but then look at that idea from different perspectives is really enlightening. But authenticity, and I think it is something a lot of people are hungry for right now, particularly with the amount of content you see at scale across, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 platforms, however many you use.
Yeah.
And the best way I think to do that, particularly as a business owner, brand owner, someone who's just getting started even, or is as I have recently, making that transition from employee to entrepreneur, from, you know, trading your time for someone else's money to just generating your own money, is to document the actual process, you know, before it actually plays out and happen. Don't just go, oh, look, here's a photo of the new car I bought from all the hard work I've been doing. Yes, that's fantastic and that's great. But, you know, 50 other 1,000 people did that just yesterday. There's not too much. It's very, it's like scrollable. The value there is scrollable. Whereas if you're presenting something that, hey, look, I've been really saving up hard to get this car and I've really been working hard for a long time. And here's like a long tail series of 8 or 9 videos that might only be 3 or 4 minutes long. But in the long tail, it shows you how I actually got there and did it. And the scroll value there, it's going to make people pause, stop, because they're intrigued. They get to see into your world.
Yeah, people just put it on a lot on social media. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I quit it for about 2 years. I just couldn't handle the just constant, I don't want to say it's constant positivity, but it just wasn't real. There was nothing real about it. You could tell everybody's just posting this super high flashy stuff. And then I know these people and I see them, they're over in the corner struggling. Like, not that you have to tell people you're struggling, but you're not being yourself. And I think I just don't resonate well with that. And I want to be one person across the board. So the person you see in the videos that you wanted to meet, it's the same person that's here. There's no difference to that. And that, I think, is a huge opportunity for anyone who's scared of telling their story. Your brand as an entrepreneur or business owner or employee, whoever you're talking to, whatever audience you have, it's all about helping your audience better tell their own story. That's why people resonate with, oh, look, this is what it's actually like to be an entrepreneur. I failed every day for the past 6 months and I finally got a sale. Like, that's really what it is out here. Like, it's not sweet. You don't just get hundreds of thousands of dollars shoveled at you for putting up an e-commerce website. You know this as well as I do. It takes a ton of effort. It's a lot of upfront investment. And your whole thing to being authentic is owning your own story. And that's why people want to see authenticity.
Yeah, they really do. I have an analogy for entrepreneurship, and I say it's like mining for gold, right? You know, you get there, you get in the pits, you're digging, it's hard work, you know, it's sweaty, it's nasty. Sometimes you miss your lunch because you're working so hard, and you might get nothing for months, you know, but then sooner or later, you get that sale, and just like one sale, it's like striking gold for you, you know, because it means so much to you that you've been working at it for such a long time. And then, you know, you might find a vein, a gold vein, and that leads to more and more and more, and then you get on a roll from there. But it's also like a roller coaster as well, you know. There's but I always say hold on tight, because it's well worth the ride and very rewarding if you do.
Totally. One other part about that too, especially with the times we're in, I think the biggest risk you can take is not starting your own business. Because if anything, this circumstance with the world has taught us as well, your stable job isn't nearly as stable as you thought. Mm-hmm. And I think that also kind of leads me into why I teach sales and talk to people about the importance of sales. Most people don't like salespeople. I'm included. I don't like salespeople. They're pushing things at you. But understanding how to sell gives you agency over any situation you're in. You're understanding that you need to listen first, not just push something on somebody. You need to solve someone's problem. So I say solve, don't sell. And if everybody invests a little bit of time in learning a better way to listen to people and solve their problems, you're always going to have a place to land no matter what's happening outside.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I know on the sales perspective, stumbling on that. Perspective. Got it.
Perspective. Yeah.
Perspective. I even did an accent for some reason. But I know, you know, sales perspective, you have a bit of a different approach in that, you know. You say, forget everything that you know about sales. Effective sales is about listening, learning, and connecting. That might sound pretty strange and off-centered to some people, but maybe you could expand on that and what you actually kind of mean behind that.
Sure. You could hustle and push someone into a product immediately, like all of us could. We've all bought something that we spent probably a little too much money on because we were just, all right, I'll get it. And then we didn't feel good about that purchase. We actually resented the person who made us feel that way at that time. And then we didn't like the object or the service that we bought. I know it's happened to me.
Yeah.
But when definitely, I'm sure all the listeners can relate to that as well.
Sure.
But when you're listening, you're solving a problem, and you're not actually pushing something on somebody, you do a couple of things that's different. One, you can acknowledge the fact that you might not be able to help the person, which is fine, which shows that you're a person who's trustworthy, because sales is all about knowing, liking, and trusting someone. And then when you check those boxes, then someone will buy from you, not before then. So when I say it's all about active listening, it's about understanding who you're talking to, what their actual needs are, if you can actually help them, and then building a relationship. Because if they don't buy from you now because it's not a fit, they'll respect you for acknowledging that. And they might tell other people like, hey, you know, Jake, it wasn't a fit for what I have, but I loved the way he asked me the questions that I had. He gave me some good trainings I could follow, and I trust this guy because he knows what he's talking about. You get repeat business from people when you build a relationship. And I'd rather have a customer for life than a single customer in one big sale. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I really align with that. And I think about the multitude of businesses that I've had over the years, and I've never had more like, you talk about sales funnels and the way to drive business and coming from ads and online and Google ads, maybe Facebook ads. I've never had more business, whether that's been plumbing, e-commerce stores, from referrals. People go, hey, look, I had a great experience and I know you will too. I don't think you can beat that. If someone love, trust and respect says to you, hey, look, you're looking for the same thing I was looking for 2, 3, 6 months, 3 years ago, and I had a great experience with this person, you're gonna shortcut. We all like the little shortcuts, hacks in life. That's one. You're gonna go with what they say as opposed to trawling the internet and going through reviews. It's just the quickest way. You will always get more business. And to your point on what you said about just being transparent and accepting the fact that sometimes you can't help people and what you do isn't a good fit for them. Like just being a human about that and not trying to go, hey, look, I'll just sell it you anyway, and maybe if it doesn't work out, we can come to some kind of deal later about returning that. It's just a waste of time. It's a waste of energy as well. And I agree with what you say. What you sell might not be right for one person, but they may say, hey, look, but that guy was so, Stephen was so transparent and honest about saying that it wouldn't be right for me. They say bad news travels fast. Well, I think good news travels even faster, actually. And that's really going to work and play out for you well in your business, just being honest, transparent, and not being, the car salesman, as it were.
Exactly. No, I completely agree with you, man. And that's what I want to combat with everything that I do.
Now, tell me, I know you've been in business for a while and helping other businesses in business as well. Tell us about some of the challenges you've faced along the way, because I think there's always a lot of value to be learned from them.
Oh man, there's so many challenges. I think asking for help is one of the hardest things for all of us, myself included. So I think it's getting people over the hump of acknowledging like, I need help is always a challenge. And then just getting them commit to taking the help, right? That's definitely a challenge that I always experience. I've surmounted that by, again, just being more patient, listening, and pushing where appropriate, right? Like the more you listen to your customers, your clients, or the market, the better you're able to challenge those ingrained beliefs. And that's where the emotion changes, and that's where someone can make a proper decision to do business with you. And that's something I'm constantly calibrating, learning more about, and figuring out better ways to serve the clients that I serve so that I can hit those right emotional chords and get them to conquer those old beliefs that they have, to accept the help that they need, and help them grow to the companies and businesses and people that they want to be.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I like something you said there, that you're always working to improve yourself and your skills, and see, of course, how business, rapidly changes. And this is a perfect example of that. But you're always figuring out ways how you can help business and how you can adapt and evolve. And I'd love to know, like, how do you do that? Is it reading? Is it just being aware of the market? Is it looking at, what the marketplace is saying?
It's so many different things. I read around 3 to 4 books a month on all different types of things. So I'm not a big history buff, but I think history can teach us a lot about everything. And I'll give you another story or analogy. There's so much uncertainty in the world right now. People don't know what's going to happen in the next week, next month, or next 5 years more than any other time in history. But one thing you can always bet on is human nature. We're always going to approach certain circumstances the same way in mass. So if you look at that, if you look at like previous pandemics, how people acted, the way the markets moved, the way that people purchased things or what they did, you're pretty much going to, if you overlaid those lines for right now, you're pretty much going to see almost the same exact thing. So human nature is always the appropriate bet. So first thing is I look at history. I have like a file of quotes that I love that I've categorized by, like, if it's sales, if it's mindset, if it's stories, whatever it is. And I keep those things really close. So I read a ton. That's the first place. The second thing is I talk to as many people as I can. And I love learning from people. I'm an extrovert to some degree, and that's one of the hardest challenges about COVID for sure. But I talk to lots of people and I listen to what they have to say, and I ask lots of questions. I go to events and I watch some news shows from other countries, and I'm just really curious. I think curiosity is the first step in being able to continually calibrate. And the other thing I would say is I review my own results. So I'll listen to my calls with people. Where did I mess this up? I'll review my emails. I write journal entries. I meditate. Like, I do all of these things because I'm in permanent beta. I'm not a finished product. I don't plan on being a finished product. I just plan on improving every single day.
I think that's a fantastic attitude to have, not only with your respect to business, but with respect to life. You know, knowing you're never a finished product. The sculpting is never complete. And you're always moldable and adaptable, and you have to be. You know, this year it's really like been evolve or become extinct for a lot of businesses. You know, and that's how it's been. Now, in that, and I think what you said, going back to history, that I'm a bit of a history geek too. You didn't use the word geek, but I know that's what you meant. And I do like, I haven't looked back at some of the pandemics, but I've been looking at kind of some stuff. It was funny because I was reading a book on a totally different subject. It was just a history of Australia called, I've got it just here, so I'll get it up on the camera. I do like a good prop when it comes handy. This book I was reading, Australia, the biography of a nation, and it actually touched on the bubonic plague here in Australia, which came pretty hard. And then they had something else that came hot on the heels of it. I can't quite remember what it was now. But, you know, people say the world's changed and it's going to change forever. My opinion is I don't quite believe that. I think that 3, 4, 5 years from now, look, it will take some time, that this will, everything will have near enough turned back to normal, like it did with the bubonic plague, like it did with things, you know, in the past of pandemics of this scale. I just think that it's easy to get gripped by fear in the moment and think, oh, everything's going to change. It's never going to go back to what it was. I think it's quite possible that 3, 4, 5 years from now, maybe even less than that, who knows, that we'll look back on this time and go, wow, wasn't that crazy? We've moved so far past from that. And I think, frankly, thank goodness it's not going to happen again.
Knocking on all the wood, every last bit of it.
Knocking on my desk right here. Let's switch from those challenges and let's go into some wins and triumphs that you've had in business. I think this year specifically, you know, people go, oh, this has been a terrible year for business. Well, not for all business, you know, and I tread on eggshells here with how I say this, because I know, look, some businesses it's been a terrible year for. I am empathic with that, and I do feel for you, and I send my love out to you if your business has been drastically affected by this year. But think about logistics, think about packaging, think about transport, think about mechanics. You know, e-commerce has just gone crazy this year, and think about all the things that prop up that industry. For a lot of industries, things have exploded this year, and some of them have had their biggest year ever. There's always wins, there's always triumphs in any situation. So I'd love to hear about some of yours within business, you know, and some real moments that stuck out to you and thought, yeah, this is me, this is what I should be doing. Some really affirming times.
I think of two. The first one I'd have to say is when I really got started and I landed my first customer, where I went from like, hey, can I do this? Like, is somebody ever going to pay me for this? Like, oh my goodness, to when they said yes. And then, so that's the first one. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to do it. And then the check clears. And you're just like, woo, like nothing. For those of you who haven't had that, or those of you that have, I know you can relate to just that elation. That is just such a difficult thing to pull off mentally. And then when it does, it's just, there's such a victory and a confidence you get from that. And I wish that on any person who's starting a business, that when you get your first customer, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So that one was just huge. And then you get your second, and that feels better as well, but not as good, but great as well. And then the other thing I would say is when people get results and they're grateful for your help. Those are just like, I love getting testimonials from people or emails being like, dude, I did exactly what you told me to do. I got huge results with it. And I'm so grateful that I learned this from you. Like, I get just, there's nothing that feels that way. I think when you see why I do what I do, besides wanting to have agency over my own life, it's in times like these too, as I kind of mentioned before, there isn't any certainty. But one thing you can always control is your input and your attitude. And if I can tell one person that they can take a little bit better control of their circumstance or situation by learning just how to listen to people or employ a certain technique, seeing the lights go on for how that applies to their business or their life, and having them tell me about that, like, I live for that. That is why I get up at 4:30 in the morning. That is why I continue to put in the work, even when I'm not getting all the results that I want sometimes. When you have those down months, that just makes it super clear why I'm here. And I think for anyone who is questioning that or having a struggle or having a hard year, you have to keep that why, that reason really, really close to you, because motivation is fleeting. Like, I can't stand when people call themselves motivational speakers. Like, hopefully people get motivated by something you say, but motivation is a moment. It's not a habit. Right? Like, you need to get jacked up from somebody talking to you. That's cool. And you might go implement that tactic right away. But what about tomorrow? What about next week? How do we keep that going? It's all about habits. So I say it's more about putting yourself into a position where you can actively pursue things all the time. And I say, when I see people doing that, that just gives me such a huge, huge juice to continue to do that, because my why is very present in everything I do.
Yeah, and it's great when you firstly understand your why. I think, and that might sound strange, particularly in business though, a lot of people start a business and, they started to earn some money, and that's great. And now they're earning, they don't have to work for someone else anymore. Fantastic, goal hit, goal achieved. But if money's the only, and I've said this so many times on the show, people are probably getting bored of me saying it, but I will continue to say it because it's something I believe in and I stand by. If money is your only motivator in business, and the money doesn't always come. There'll be some times that you might go for a week or perhaps even have a really bad month, or maybe even longer than that. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that this year where the money hasn't been coming in. And if that's your only motivator, then you're then going to question why you're doing what you're doing when that you're not getting motivated by that financial reward. So I think it's important to wind back from that and go, okay, like, I sell a physical product. Yes, that gives me money. But what am I actually selling to the customer? Okay, I'm selling them. I'm going to use something that's in front of me here, an oil diffuser. I'm selling them an oil diffuser. They're giving me money, but what are they actually getting from that? What's their actual vibe, feeling, emotional value from getting to that? Well, they're going to feel more relaxed. They're going to feel more calm, and actually, that's what I would be searching for. Okay, my why is that I want to make people feel more relaxed and more calm and more harmonious in their home. And then when people give you that feedback and say, oh, I bought your oil diffuser, it was fantastic. Me and my wife feel really nice and calm now in our home. The dog's even a bit more relaxed as well. You're just going to be super happy, super smiling, and just getting that vibe and that feedback and getting your why ticked off and massive thumbs up.
Yeah, I think so too, man. That's the thing that's going to get you through those days when you don't feel motivated.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to have one, for sure.
Some days, and how about this, even in my business, even if I'm having a bit of a low month or a low week, I'll just go scroll through the reviews and just read a few from people that have just really loved the product. And it just refills my energy back up, gets my why back aligned, and gets me back on track.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm glad to hear you got that ritual.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about the word hustle, Stephen.
Hustle.
You got the hustle within you, brother. You wouldn't be on the show otherwise.
Amen.
However, the hustle is the title of this show. It's something that drives a lot of people, but it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'd love to get kind of your definition of it and what drives your hunger for it.
To me, hustle is sheer force of will. So it goes back to the why. I think he who understands his why can bear almost any how. And I don't know who said that. I can't remember, but it's a quote I have in my chapter or my chest box of quotes. But I think that's really completely true. I think hustle is about just, I'm going to make this happen some way, shape, or form. And it's about sacrificing things. So I would say if that means going the extra mile with a client, Like for that first client, as an example, when you get that first sale, it's like, woo, all right, I'm going to blow this one out of the water. So they tell everyone, right? I think it's all about, I'm going to make this happen no matter what happens. And if you keep that going with yourself and you keep that present, people are going to gravitate towards that. Like as just my example for us, like how we met, I posted videos. I've been doing it a bunch of days. I don't know which one you saw. Maybe you saw a couple of them, but because I was consistent, right? First be consistent, then you can be known, right? Like that's the kind of way I approach it. So hustle is just showing up every day, sheer force of will. I'm going to make this happen. No matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody else does, I'm controlling my inputs and I will get to the output, whether it's now or a little bit down the line. I'm not losing sight of what I want.
I love that. I love that definition. It's sheer will. That's I've asked quite a few people well over 50 people that question, and it still fascinates me that I get a different answer almost every time. It's great. It just shows you that, we're all humans, we're all completely unique, and the way we perceive and approach and get feedback from things is often quite different.
Curious, how do you define hustle?
I define hustle to be not having or seeing the circumstances around you that you want, so going out there and creating them.
Amen. All the finger snaps.
Tell me, Stephen, about some goals, dreams, and aspirations for you and what you do, perhaps in the context of the Speaker Genius, perhaps in the context, I know you've already said that you want to help 1,000 businesses, but yeah, I'd love for you to share some more of those goals, dreams, and aspirations with us.
Yeah, I want to see, so why public speaking as well? So it's a great lead generator. It's fun to get on stage. I read somewhere that public speaking is the #1 fear, second to death.
I couldn't believe it when I read that, because it doesn't bother me so much, but I could understand it, I suppose, at the same time.
I mean, I guess, like, I still get nervous when I talk on stage. Like, I'll be honest, I still do. You get nervous for 2 reasons. 1, you feel you're going to be judged by people, or 2, you're unprepared. Those are the 2 reasons that I feel, right?
I'm sorry to cut across you. I should be honest and say, I have never actually spoken on a stage to a big group of people, and I probably actually would be scared as hell when the time comes up, which I know it's going to come. I've only spoke virtually so far, and some of those times I got nervous. So I should pull back and just be completely transparent and honest here. When I said it doesn't bother me, I haven't had the opportunity for it to bother me yet, and I'm sure it will when it comes up.
It's frightening. Like, I become a baby. As soon as I walk up there, I go completely blank for a second or 2. I don't know. It feels like an hour. But I go back to the other part where you're unprepared. So you have to over prepare. Right? Like, I practice public speaking every morning for 10, 20 minutes. I'm committed to being the absolute best I can be at it. I want to be world class. And that's one of the whys I have, right? That's something I'm working at consistently. So when it comes time and the emotions come up, I go back to my day of training, and I have my devices and my rituals to get me back into the moment that I'm in. Right? So when I say that, so people are less afraid of dying than they are of talking in front of people. I think in times like these, where we talked about authenticity being the huge need people have, where there's a dearth of leadership you could say in political offices, you could say in businesses, or you could say anywhere, there's no real like tangible person where people would be like, I rock with you. I love your opinion. I want to really, really understand where you're going. I can follow you. That means there's a big gap. There's a chasm for leaders. And the first place is knowing your own story and owning your own story if you want to be a leader, right? It's understanding who you are, what you want, where you are, and what that means in the context of what you want to accomplish, and sharing that with people. That's #1. So I want to give people, at least 1,000 people, hopefully millions of people, right? If it all goes really well, the opportunity to understand that you can be a leader in whatever situation you're in. You don't have to be Tony Robbins. You don't have to be a global CEO, but whatever your domain is, if it's the person who runs e-commerce companies, or you just make oil diffusers in the factory, there is a unique story that's available there that you can own. And I want people to understand that it's important for you to share that story, that comment, that journey, because that's what makes people feel good, accepted, and ready to do business and go harder at what they want as well.
Yeah, yeah, well said, sir. Well said. And I think you say 1,000 people it's a nice milestone to start with, mate. I can see you smashing through that. I reckon smashing through that.
Let's do it.
Particularly as I think you're a man that's in this for the long tail, right? You're in this for the long term because it's what you do. And I'm just saying what I see here, but I get pretty good at seeing people that do what they do because they love it. And to me, you really seem like someone who is driven by doing, by their passion, essentially.
Thank you.
And you're in it for the long term. So 1,000 will come, 10,000 will come, and onwards and upwards, I think.
I appreciate that.
As we close out, I'm going to be doing something a little bit wacky with you at the end. Yeah, and we'll have some fun with that. But before we get onto that, I would love it if you could give 3 hot tips to the audience and a book recommendation. You've already said you read a lot of books there. In whatever regard you would like, I suppose. Maybe it would be into businesses and pivoting this year and surviving, really.
Okay. Let's see. Tip number 1. If you are, this will be like a 1.5 tip, I guess.
Okay. Hey, I said 3. Do 7.
I'll do this, but this is 1.5. So for anyone who wants to pivot, number 1, you need to make a business case for why people should do business with you, right? You need to make it about them. Like also in a speech or presentation, your goal is to create a better way for your customer, your audience, or whoever's listening to tell their own story better, period. That's why your business exists. Your e-commerce company solves a specific problem for a specific group of people and helps them tell their own story better. I buy the product, I can spend more time with my family, and I spend less time breaking my back doing work I don't want to do. Thank you for helping me tell my story better, right? That's why they'll pay a premium for that. So there's 4 reasons why people buy anything in a business to business context. And there are 3 reasons people buy anything in a consumer context. In a business context, the 4 reasons: you're going to help them make more money. You're going to help them save money. You're going to increase their efficiency, or you're going to mitigate their risk. If you are pivoting your business in a business context, figure out how to create a value proposition that aligns with probably all 4 of these. Because if you know all 4 of the ways to measure how you can be successful for a partner or a customer, you have a business case for a measurable way to establish urgency in a sale. Urgency is key. If you've agitated the problem and you solve a real problem and you can quantify just how big the problem is, now we can add emotion to it. And if we can add emotion, we've got urgency, we are more than likely to close that deal because we understand the exact reason of what's happening. Second part on that, once you've established the constraint and you're able to monetize the constraint, you're actually able to draw that into the broader business goals of the entire company, which means you can charge a higher price. So pay attention specifically to that if you are in a business to business context. The 1.5 side for the 3 on the consumer side is people buy anything for health, wealth, and relationships. So figure out how your value proposition aligns with those 3 things, or one of them, whichever one it is, probably more than one, and be able to speak to what your product can do to help people better achieve more results in those 3 categories. If you can do that, you're always going to know what to write for your content. You're always going to know how to talk to your customer, and it'll help you guide the listening that you do with the people that you serve. So that would be my 1.5 tip. The second tip I would say, and this one's always hard, this one's really tough, is follow up. Follow up. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs, and sometimes even myself, because I forget too, I'm human, say that, oh, the person didn't answer my email. They're not interested. And my next question is usually, how many emails did you send? Oh, I sent 1. How long ago did you send it? Oh, like a month ago. Okay. So the other tip for anyone listening, in most situations, it takes 8 to 13 touches for a person to respond to your email. 8 to 13, which is a lot.
A lot. It's a lot more than you would think.
It is, but again, you got to think about there's so many calls on people's attention, even more now because we're all just kind of stuck in, maybe not you in Australia now, but we're all stuck inside. So there's only a few places people can get stimulus or get new information. So you're competing with more and more and more people around the same amount of attention they have. So that's pretty tough. So you got to pay attention to that. And the more frequently you follow up, the more chances you're going to have to be the person, to be the brand of preference, to solve the problem that you solve for your market. My third tip, let's see. I actually have a story on this one. So right before the pandemic, I was out in Istanbul, Turkey, doing some sales trainings for an accelerator out there. So I was working with around 25 different companies out there, specifically teaching them how to enter the US market. And I was experiencing some of the worst jet lag of all time, but I muscled myself up to go out and explore Istanbul because it's an incredible city of history and like just beautiful. And so I'm tired, but I'm walking around and I'm in the Galata Tower Square, which was an Ottoman lookout tower for some type of battle or something. I'm not sure exactly, but beautiful, beautiful area, nice winding hillways. And I'm at the bottom of the hill about to walk up and I see a shoe shiner and he has his little stool and his brush and he's like walking past, he shuffles past me really quickly. And maybe he's 20 meters in front of me and his brush falls out of his pack and he continues walking. And me being a good citizen, I call after this gentleman and I say, hey, dude. And he like turns around and is like, you dropped your brush. He comes back and he thanks me profusely. And he takes his brush back and he's like, hey, I'll shine your shoes thank you so much. I need this to feed my family. This is how I feed my family. And I'm like, no, I'm good, man. He's like, no, let me shine your shoes. And I'm wearing Vans. So I'm like, no, obviously don't touch my sneakers, right? And he's like trying to corner me and talk about his family or whatever else. And at the same time, the person in the apartment building on the kitty corner opens their window and yells at him in English, which was kind of strange. Leave the tourists alone. You always do this. And I was like, oh, it's his little scheme.
Right.
Wow,
yeah, smart guy.
Smart guy. So what I've done with that is I've started to create a training around this. And this, what I thought was beautiful about this is kind of a way to create an inbound conversation. I spoke to him. Now he could tell me about what he has. Now it's negative because it was a scam, right? Mm-hmm. But for anybody in business, in the limited places that we can talk to people, email, social media, maybe you can call them depending on where you are. Maybe you could send mail. How can you interrupt the pattern to start a conversation? What is your drop the brush moment? And I don't have an answer for you now, but think about how can you interrupt the normal pattern that everyone is in within the scrolling that they're doing? If you think really hard and you listen using those 7 reasons that people buy things, depending on your market segment, you're now putting yourself in a rarefied air of grabbing people's attention with a pattern interrupt. So think about that. Those would be my 3 tips for anyone who's looking to succeed in business now or in the future.
First 2 are great. The third one stuck out to me. It's got me thinking. I'm literally like forming new marketing strategies in my head for my business whilst listening to you at the same time.
I've done my job.
Yeah, you certainly have. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to talking to you off camera actually further into that. But I heard a very similar story to that. I don't know if you heard much stuff from Les Brown.
I love Les Brown.
Yeah, he's one of my favourites, and actually he was the one who mentored me in speaking and helped me hone my voice and gave me the opportunity to speak at a summit alongside him, which was fantastic a few months ago.
Amazing.
He tells a very similar story to what you said. He was walking through New York once, and it was a shoe shine guy as well, and he came out and he was counting 98, 99, 100. And as Les Brown walked in front of me, he went, "Sir, you're the 100th person to walk past my shoe shine stand today. It's my birthday today. The 100th person that walks past my stand, I give them a shoe shine for free." And the guy followed on, shine Mr. Brown's shoes. And then afterwards, Mr. Brown goes, "Look, you've done such a good job. I'm going to have to pay you. You know, how much do you charge?" The guy goes, $2. Les goes, "Here's $5. It's your birthday." And then all done, walking away. And as he's walking away, here's the guy counting again, 98, 99. It's so good. You told that story so well. I had no idea until that lady opened the window that's where that was going as well. Yeah, it's a great storyteller, man. I think you're a fantastic speaker too. I think I really see that you're going to go really far with what you speak in, the way that you're transparent, the way that you're authentic, the way that you relate stories to messages. No one ever forgets a good story, do they?
I think so, man. That's the human experience.
And how about a book recommendation? I mean, you're reading 3 to 4.
And there's so many. I think one of the most helpful books I've ever read, and I say that with no embellishment, is Grant McKeown's Essentialism. It's the disciplined pursuit of less. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you have a family or whatever your thing is, we're always thinking, what's the next thing I can do to get better, be smarter, be faster? And I was thinking the same thing too, literally yesterday, and I had a frustrating day yesterday, I'll be honest, and I went for a walk. That's one of the ways I clear out the muck. And I'm close to the beach, which is nice, so I just put my feet in the water and think about it. And as I was walking down the beach to my favorite little spot to perch and just stare at stuff, I saw this woman in a shirt and it said, "All you need is less." Mm-hmm. And that just punched me in the gut, and I was like, yes. And then I started to make a list of things that I could probably cut out or not do. And when you think about doing less, having less, there's so much more room for ideas and concepts. And so I think that book is one of the best books I've read, because it takes those feelings in your gut that you can't verbalize well and tells them in a clear framework that you can just absorb. And it's a short book. It's like 200 something pages. And I would honestly say it changed my life. Wow.
I'll have to write that down. Could you just repeat the title and the author again?
I believe it's Greg McKeown, Essentialism.
Essentialism.
Yep.
Right. When you say less, do you mean doing less or having less? Are you talking about minimalism, or are you talking about doing less things so the brain's more clear?
I think I'm talking about all of it, but the other part is one of my quips that I always mention to my clients is, I can advise your business, but I can't mind your business. So I can tell you what I've seen work for me, work for others, but it's up to you. Maybe you're not a minimalist, and that's okay too. Maybe you do a lot of things or you don't do a lot of things. I think we all need to look at that through the lens of our own life, our own experience, and decide what's best for us and the people we serve. So that's the system I've used to arrive at where I think works for me and some of the people I work with. But I would never be so bold as to say that's wrong. I think there's no wrong or right. It's just what works for each of us.
Yeah, we're all on our own path, and we all get different value from different things, and particularly in business, you can't cut copy paste with business. You can even, and I've even seen it play out with two companies that are very similar that sell the same thing. You can't always use the same strategies and ways to sell that thing, because the people behind the selling are different. And the way that they apply the strategies and play them out is different as well.
Amen.
Stephen, I've had so much fun with you. I've learned a lot from you. Definitely stay on camera afterwards. I'd like to talk to you about some marketing for my business for sure. But before we go, I'm going to be having some fun with you now. 5 questions. I haven't even prepared these myself. I'm just going to come out with them. Okay. You seem like a guy has a lot of fun and enjoys having fun. So let me think of one. Stephen, what's your favorite movie?
Snatch by Guy Ritchie.
Straight with it. Great film. Favorite food?
Thai food. Red curry.
Rapid answers. Love it. 3 things you would need if you were stuck on a deserted island.
Pen and paper, because I'm going to have a lot to write about for sure, because I'm stuck there. I want to get some thoughts out. Water that's potable, and probably a knife so I could cut trees down, food, and maybe protect myself in the event that I needed to from some animals that might be delicious to eat as well.
Those are smart, logical answers that I think would help you survive. One more I've got. Tell us something, and I know this is a question that people quite frequently ask on shows like this, but I think it's a good one. Tell us something. I'm not going to say tell us about you something that no one knows. Tell us something about you that you've never expressed to the world before.
That I've never expressed to the world before. This one is a tough one. Never expressed to the world before. First thing that's coming to mind, I mean, I've told like,
That's what I want.
first thing that's coming to mind, I've mentioned it to a couple people, but not like massively. I was in a Beyonce music video one time.
Really?
Yeah, super random.
Backup dancer.
Yeah, basically, like I have my quarter second of fame where you can see my face and my hair just jump out, and then I'm gone. But I do have it.
Did you get it printed and up on the wall in your place?
No, it doesn't affect my life in any other way except it's a funny little thing I can tell people.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. I'm pleased that I drew it out of you. Stephen, it's been absolutely fantastic for spending some time with you today. You've brought a lot of energy to the show. I really appreciate that. I'm going to put your social links right here in the comments, but do you just want to tell people where they can find you if they want to connect with you?
Yes, I can. And first off, thank you for having me. And this has been a huge amount of fun, man. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, and I look forward to chatting more off camera as well. You can find me on Facebook, Steven Steers. I think this is Steven Steers is my profile, but type it in. You'll see my face with my hair. It's unmistakable. You can find me there. I'd love to connect with you. Love to learn about what you're doing. You can find me on Instagram at Steven Steers _, all one word. I'm not as frequent on there, but I'm going to be ramping that up in a few months. So keep your eyes peeled. You can find me on YouTube, Steven Steers again. I post videos there and I share a little bit more value than I do on other channels. And if you want to email me, s@Steven Steers, I'd love to meet you.
Fantastic, guys. This has been just a great podcast full of value for anyone that is in business or anyone that's looking to go into business, anyone particularly that's struggling with their business this year. So if you did enjoy this episode, guys, please like, share, subscribe, and pass it on to someone else that you think could get some value from it. Thank you all for listening, whether you're listening now or later. Much love to you wherever you are in the world. Stephen, thanks for coming on.